The night smells like rain and hot asphalt when they stop him. Red and blue lights flood the empty street, washing the world into hard colors. Sergeant Marcus Hale slows, hands already visible, posture trained into him by years of discipline and survival. His uniform jacket is folded on the passenger seat. Civilian clothes now. Hoodie, jeans. A body read instantly as threat. Out of the car, one officer says, hand tight on his baton. Marcus steps out. Gravel bites through his soles. He notices everything. The tremor in the officer's jaw. The way the second one circles behind him. The camera light blinking on too late. Too slow. What's the reason? Marcus asks, calm, measured. The baton strikes his ribs before the answer arrives. Air leaves his lungs in a sharp, ugly sound. Knees hit pavement. A boot presses his neck down, grinding his cheek into wet concrete. Don't talk back, the officer says. You people always forget your place. Marcus tastes blood. He does not scream. Soldiers are trained for pain. But this isn't combat. This is ritual. Someone laughs. Someone else says, search him. A wallet hits the ground. A folded military ID slides free. The pressure on his neck eases. Silence stretches, thick, confused, afraid. One officer picks up the ID, squints under the streetlight. His face drains of color. Sir, he whispers. Marcus lifts his head, rain mixing with blood on his face. He follows the man's gaze to the insignia, the rank, the name. Across the street, more patrol cars arrive. Doors open. Boots align. And one by one, the men who broke him straighten, hands snapping up in salute. The siren cuts once, sharp and intentional, and Marcus Hale knows before he looks in the mirror. He signals, pulls over, shuts off the engine. Hands on the wheel. Slow breath in, slow breath out. The street is empty, storefronts dark, rain misting down like static. He tells himself it's routine. He tells himself discipline applies everywhere. Red and blue light crawls across the dashboard. Boots approach. License and registration. A voice says, Marcus turns his head carefully. Officer, may I reach for my wallet? A pause. Then do it slow? He does. The wallet slips slightly from his fingers, landing on the seat. Step out of the vehicle. Marcus opens the door. Cold air hits his face. He stands straight, shoulders back, habit stronger than instinct. What's the issue, he asks. A baton cracks against his side. Pain blooms, sudden and bright. His breath tears loose. Down, someone says. Hands shove him. His knee hits pavement, then the other. A boot presses between his shoulder blades, forcing him forward. His cheek meets wet concrete. Grit scrapes skin. Stop resisting, the officer says. I'm not, Marcus starts. The boot shifts, grinding his face harder into the ground. You people always say that. Marcus clenches his jaw. He tastes blood. His training whispers through the pain. Endure, assess, survive. But this isn't a battlefield. There is no enemy to engage, only authority performing itself. Search him, another voice says. Hands go through his pockets. Rough, impatient. What you doing out here this late? Someone asks. Coming home, Marcus says. His voice is tight, but controlled. From above him comes a laugh. Figures. His wallet hits the pavement. Something slips free. Plastic skids across concrete. Silence. The pressure on his back eases slightly. Marcus feels it immediately. The shift, the hesitation. What's that? One officer asks. A hand picks up the card. Marcus hears the faint click of a flashlight, the paper-thin sound of breath catching. That's military, the officer says. Wait. Marcus turns his head enough to see the man's face. Color drains from it. Sir, the officer says quietly. The word lands wrong. Too late, too small. Another officer steps closer. What? The man swallows. He's an army officer. A beat, then another. Rank, someone asks. The officer stares at the ID. Sergeant Major. Rain patters against the street. A patrol car door opens behind them. More boots arrive. Radios crackle, suddenly careful. Marcus pushes himself up onto his elbows. No one stops him. "I told you," he says, not loud, not angry, just tired. No one answers. The first officer steps back fully now, straightens his vest. His hands shake as they rise. "Sir," he says again, louder, "we didn't know." Around him, the others follow instinct drilled deeper than prejudice. Spine straighten, feet align, hands snap up, salutes bloom in the rain. Marcus rises to his feet, ribs screaming. He stands in front of them, bloody, shaking, unbroken. The street watches. And for the first time since the lights came on, Marcus realizes this moment will not end when he walks away. The hospital lights are too bright. They hum softly, endlessly, like a machine that never sleeps and never cares. Marcus lies still while a nurse presses gauze against his ribs. Every breath sends a dull ache through his side. He focuses on control. Inhale through the nose, exhale through the mouth. Training overriding instinct. The nurse's hands are gentle, but her eyes keep flicking to the bruises, to the split skin on his cheek. "Any dizziness?" she asks. "No," Marcus says. "You lost consciousness?" "No." She hesitates. "Pain level?" Marcus almost laughs. "Manageable." She nods, writes it down, and moves on. Manageable. Everything is manageable until it isn't. The curtain rustles. A man in a press uniform steps inside. Army green, sharp creases, insignia polished to a mirror shine. Captain Lewis. Marcus recognizes him immediately. Sergeant Major Hale. Lewis says, "I'm sorry it's under these circumstances." Marcus shifts slightly, sitting up despite the protest in his ribs. "You didn't cause it." Lewis exhales. "No, but I'm here because of it." Behind Lewis, another man enters. Civilian suit. City badge clipped to his belt. Internal Affairs, written all over him. "I'm Detective Rowan," the man says. "Internal Affairs. I just need to ask a few questions." Marcus looks from the badge to the uniform. Two systems. Two languages. Neither built for him. Lewis clears his throat. "With respect, Detective, Sergeant Major Hale has the right to counsel. And rest." Rowan forces a smile. "Of course. This is just preliminary. We want to make sure we understand what happened." Marcus meets Rowan's eyes. "You already know what happened." Rowan's smile tightens. "We know there was a stop. A misunderstanding." Lewis stiffens. "A beating isn't a misunderstanding." Rowan raises his hands. "Let's keep emotions out of this." Marcus's voice is calm when he speaks. "You keep calling it a misunderstanding because that makes it smaller." Silence drops into the space between them. Rowan shifts his weight. The officers involved stated they perceived a threat. Lewis lets out a short, incredulous breath. From a man standing still with his hands visible? Rowan doesn't answer directly. Perception matters in these situations. Marcus looks down at his hands, still faintly trembling. "My perception didn't." Rowan scribbles something in his notebook. "We'll be conducting a full review." Lewis crosses his arms. "And until then, the officers are on administrative leave," Rowan says. "With pay." Marcus closes his eyes briefly. He sees the boot, feels the pressure, hears the voice. "You people always forget your place." "With pay," Marcus repeats. Rowan nods. Standard procedure. Lewis leans forward. "And if Sergeant Major Hale wasn't in the Army?" Rowan hesitates. "Just long enough." "That's not relevant," he says. Marcus opens his eyes. "That's the only thing that's relevant." Rowan snaps his notebook shut. "We'll follow up." He leaves without another word. The silence he leaves behind is heavier than his presence. Lewis waits until the curtain settles. "I've notified command," he says. "They're concerned." Marcus lets out a slow breath. "Concern won't fix this." "No," Lewis agrees. "But attention might." A doctor enters, interrupts them with clinical efficiency. X-rays. No fractures. Deep bruising. Concussion protocol. Rest. When the doctor leaves, Lewis lowers his voice. There's already media interest. Marcus turns his head. How? Someone recorded the stop from across the street. Marcus's jaw tightens. Of course they did. They recognized you, Lewis continues. After, Marcus stares at the wall. The pane is cracked in one corner, peeling slightly. He focuses on that instead of the image forming in his head. His body on the ground, framed by flashing lights. They're calling you a hero, Lewis says carefully. Marcus finally looks at him. For surviving? For serving? Marcus shakes his head once. I served long before tonight. Lewis hesitates. There's pressure from both sides. Marcus knows what that means. Speak carefully. Don't escalate. Represent the uniform well. They want a statement, Lewis adds. Marcus's laugh is quiet, humorless. They want control. Lewis doesn't argue. The door opens again. This time it's his sister, Renee. She freezes when she sees his face. Oh my God, she says. Marcus straightens instinctively. I'm fine. Renee crosses the room in 3 steps. Don't lie to me. She touches his cheek gently, then pulls back, anger flaring. Who did this? Lewis starts to speak. Marcus raises a hand. Police? Marcus says. Renee's eyes harden. Of course it was. Lewis shifts, uncomfortable. I'll give you some privacy. He leaves. Renee sits on the edge of the bed. They always find a reason, she says. A hoodie, a car, the time of night. Marcus nods. A body. Renee looks at him sharply. Don't let them use you. Use me how? She swallows. As proof they're not like that. Because you wear the uniform. Marcus doesn't answer immediately. He thinks of the salutes. The way respect snapped into place once rank was revealed. They didn't see me, he says finally. Not until the ID. Renee's voice is quiet. And that's the part that scares me. A knock sounds at the door. A nurse peeks in. Sergeant Hale? There's a reporter downstairs asking if you'll comment. Marcus closes his eyes. Renee squeezes his hand. You don't owe anyone anything. Marcus opens his eyes again. The pain is still there. The anger too. But beneath it is something heavier, a responsibility he never asked for. They'll talk whether I speak or not, he says. Renee nods. Then make them listen. Marcus swings his legs off the bed. Slowly, carefully, he stands, unsteady but upright. Uniforms don't bleed, he says. People do. And somewhere beyond the hospital walls, the city is already deciding which version of him it wants to see. The press conference happens before Marcus is discharged. He watches it on a muted television bolted to the hospital wall. The police chief stands at the podium, uniform crisp, face all in a way that feels rehearsed. An American flag fills the background. A department seal gleams under stage lights. The caption reads, Police address late night incident. The chief's mouth moves. Marcus reads the subtitles. Regrettable encounter. Officers follow protocol. Ongoing investigation. No mention of a boot. No mention of blood. Renee sits beside him, arms crossed. He's already decided, she says. Marcus doesn't answer. He's watching the chief's eyes. They don't flicker. Not once. A knock comes at the door. Captain Lewis steps in again, this time with a woman Marcus doesn't recognize. She wears a gray suit and a careful expression. This is Deputy City Attorney Elaine Porter. Lewis says. She wanted to speak with you. Porter smiles politely. Sergeant Major Hale. Thank you for your service. Marcus nods once. Why are you here? Porter doesn't sit. The city wants to resolve this responsibly. Renee snorts. Porter ignores it. We're asking for your cooperation. Porter continues. Specifically discretion. Marcus tilts his head slightly. Explain. Porter folds her hands. Public statements can complicate investigations. Emotions are high. We prefer to let the process work. Marcus's voice is even. The process worked fast enough to put me on the ground. Porter's smile tightens. I understand you're upset. Renee leans forward. He was assaulted. Porter nods sympathetically. That's one interpretation. Marcus feels something cold settle behind his ribs. And the other? A situation escalated, Porter says. No malicious intent has been established. Lewis stiffens. Elaine. Porter cuts him a look. Captain, this is a legal matter. Marcus meets her gaze. So is what they did. Porter exhales. The officers involved have families, careers. This doesn't need to become something it can't be undone. Marcus looks at her steadily. Neither does what happened to me. Silence stretches. Porter gathers her bag. Think carefully, she says. Public pressure cuts both ways. She leaves. Renee shakes her head. They're scared. Marcus nods. Of losing control. He's discharged that afternoon. Outside, cameras wait. Reporters shout his name. Questions overlap, urgent and hungry. Sergeant Hale, do you feel betrayed? Were you targeted because of your race? Should the officers be fired? Marcus stops at the hospital steps. The noise swells, then stills. Yes, he says, voice steady. I was targeted. A murmur ripples through the crowd. I complied. I spoke calmly. I followed instructions. None of that mattered until they saw my rank. He pauses. That's not justice. That's conditioning. No more. He turns away. By evening, the department releases a statement. Body camera footage under review. Officers placed on administrative duty. Department committed to transparency. Marcus reads it on his phone, standing in his living room. His ribs throb. His inbox fills. A call comes in from an unfamiliar number. This is Officer Daniel Reeves. The voice says, one of the responding officers. Marcus doesn't speak. I just want to say, I didn't touch you. Reeves continues. I tried to de-escalate. Marcus exhales slowly. Did you stop them? Silence. I thought you were armed. Reeves says finally. Marcus closes his eyes. I was breathing. Reeves swallows audibly. Look, I'm just saying not everyone there's like that. Marcus opens his eyes. But you were all there. The line goes dead. 2 days later, Internal Affairs schedules Marcus's formal interview. The room is small, windowless. A camera hums softly in the corner. Detective Rowan sits across from him again, posture neutral, voice practiced. Walk us through the incident. Rowan says. Marcus does. Slowly, precisely. Dialogue, actions, words spoken, hands used. The boot. Rowan interrupts twice. Once to clarify timing. Once to ask whether Marcus raised his voice. No, Marcus says. Rowan nods, writes it down. And when did they realize you were military? When they found the ID. Rowan looks up. And what happened then? They stopped hurting me. Rowan's pen stills. Later that night, Marcus watches the leaked body cam footage go live. The audio is worse than he remembered. Don't talk back. You people, the country hears it now. Phones buzz. Protests ignite. The department goes quiet. And for the first time since the stop, Marcus feels a ground shift, not toward safety, but toward consequence. Marcus wakes before dawn. The house silent, except for the low hum of the refrigerator. His ribs ache when he sits up. Pain has become background noise, present, constant, manageable. He moves carefully, as if his body now belongs to someone else. His phone lights up the room. Messages stack endlessly. Reporters, advocacy groups, veterans organizations, politicians, strangers thanking him, strangers demanding more. He sets the phone down without responding. In the bathroom mirror, his face is a map of fading violence. Yellowing bruises, a thin cut at his cheekbone. He studies himself the way he used to study soldiers under his command, looking for weakness, for strain, for cracks that could widen under pressure. Renee arrives mid-morning, coffee in hand, anger barely contained. They're calling you a hero again, she says, dropping into a chair. And a victim, depending on the channel. Marcus pours water instead. Both are easy stories. And you, she asks. I'm inconvenient. The doorbell rings. Captain Lewis stands outside with 2 others. One Marcus recognizes immediately. Colonel David Shaw, his superior, his commander. Shaw steps inside, eyes sharp, assessing. Sergeant Major. Marcus straightens automatically. Sir. Shaw gestures. At ease. Always hated that reflex. They sit. Shaw doesn't waste time. Washington is watching this closely, he says. The footage changed the temperature. Marcus nods. It showed the truth. It showed a version of it, Shaw corrects. And now everyone wants you to stand for something. Lewis shifts uncomfortably. You represent the Army, Shaw continues, whether you want to or not. Marcus's voice is calm. I represented it on the ground, too. Shaw meets his eyes. And that's why this matters. Renee leans forward. You want him to stay quiet. Shaw doesn't deny it. I want him to be strategic. Marcus exhales. Strategic for who? Shaw pauses. For the institution. Marcus nods slowly. That's what I thought. The meeting ends without resolution. Shaw leaves behind a warning disguised as concern. They'll build you up, he says at the door, and then they'll discard you. By afternoon, Marcus agrees to one interview. One, with a journalist known for patience rather than spectacle. They sit across from each other in Marcus's living room. No cameras, just a recorder on the table. I don't want a headline, the journalist says. I want understanding. Marcus considers him. Those aren't the same thing. The journalist nods. Tell me who you were before the stop. Marcus thinks. A soldier, a brother, a man who believed rules mattered. And after, Marcus looks away. Someone who learned their conditional. The journalist doesn't interrupt. They saluted me, Marcus continues. After, like respect could erase memory. Like rank could bleach blood off concrete. Silence stretches. Do you forgive them? The journalist asks. Marcus answers without hesitation. That's not the point. The interview airs that night. It doesn't go viral. It doesn't scream. It spreads anyway. Some praise him for restraint. Others accuse him of not going far enough. Commentators argue over whether his service makes him an exception or proves the rule. Marcus watches none of it. Instead, he attends a small community meeting in a church basement. Folding chairs, fluorescent lights, faces worn by repetition. A man stands. Happened to me last year, he says. No camera. A woman follows. My son didn't come home. Marcus listens. He doesn't speak until the end. I'm not here to be your symbol, he says. I'm here because silence is part of the system. A murmur ripples through the room. I didn't earn safety, Marcus continues. I borrowed it from a uniform they respect more than my skin. Afterward, a teenager approaches him. Nervous, hoodie pulled tight. They listen to you, the boy says. Marcus shakes his head. They listen to power. The boy hesitates. Then use it. That night, Marcus lies awake. The city outside hums, restless. He feels the weight settle fully now. Not fame, not fear, but responsibility stripped of illusion. He is not a symbol, but he is no longer invisible. And the system, exposed alike, is beginning to push back. The video is 37 seconds long. Marcus watches it alone the first time, laptop balanced on the kitchen table, volume low but not muted. He tells himself he needs accuracy, evidence, distance. He gets none. The footage opens with flashing lights, warped by rain on the lens. His own voice sounds unfamiliar, steady, respectful, careful in a way that now feels cruel in hindsight. Officer, may I reach for my wallet? The pause is audible. Not long, just enough. Then the baton swings. Marcus's jaw tightens as the sound hits. Flesh against plastic, a dull crack that makes his ribs ache again in sympathy. The camera jolts. The angle drops. The ground fills the frame. Down. Stop resisting. You people always... The sentence cuts off, replaced by laughter. Marcus closes his eyes. But the audio keeps going. He hears his breath leave him, sharp and broken. He hears the scrape of his cheek against concrete. He hears nothing that sounds like a threat. When the military ID appears in frame, the shift is immediate. Voices change. Volume drops. Wait. That's military. Sir, Marcus opens his eyes. The word hangs in the air, naked and afraid. He shuts the laptop. Outside, the city ignites. By morning, the video is everywhere. On phones, on walls, on screens mounted in bar windows. The words loop endlessly, stripped of context, raw and undeniable. Protests form by noon. Marcus drives past one on his way to meet his attorney. He sees signs pressed against the barricades. No bad apples, we saw the tape. Who gets to breathe? He doesn't stop. He can't. The attorney's office smells like stale coffee and toner. Files cover the desk, neatly stacked. They're in trouble. The attorney says without preamble. Real trouble. Marcus sits slowly. Good. The attorney doesn't smile. This doesn't end cleanly. No, Marcus agrees. Charges are announced that afternoon. Assault, civil rights violations. The language is careful, but the meaning is clear enough. 2 officers are suspended without pay. 1 resigns preemptively. The 4th officer, the one who laughed, issues a statement through his union. I feared for my life. Marcus reads it twice. Fear. The word has weight now. It bends reality around itself. A call comes in from Captain Lewis. They're trying to isolate blame. Lewis says, make it look like a few bad actors. Marcus looks out the window. It never is. They'll offer a settlement. Lewis continues. Soon. Marcus says nothing. That night, Marcus attends a city council meeting. He doesn't plan to speak. He sits in the back, cap pulled low. He's recognized anyway. Whispers spread. Phones rise. A councilwoman clears her throat. Sergeant Major Hale is with us tonight. Applause breaks out. Uneven, uncomfortable. Marcus stands when they call his name. Walks to the podium. The microphone smells faintly of disinfectant. I won't be long, he says. The room stills. I watched the video like all of you, Marcus continues. I heard the words. I saw the shift when my rank appeared. He pauses. That pause, right before the baton, that's the system deciding who deserves the benefit of doubt. No one interrupts. They didn't see a soldier. They saw a body they'd been trained to fear. A man in uniform shifts in his seat. I didn't earn protection, Marcus says. I triggered it. Silence presses down, heavy and attentive. I don't want vengeance, he finishes. I want memory, because forgetting is how this repeats. He steps back. The applause is louder this time. It doesn't comfort him. Later, alone again, Marcus receives a message from an unknown number. I was there that night. I froze. I'm sorry. He types a response. Deletes it. Sets the phone down. Freezing is another word for survival. The union releases more footage. Edited, slowed, annotated. They point to shadows. To angles. To milliseconds. Marcus watches none of it. He visits the street where it happened instead. The rain has washed everything clean. No blood. No tape. Just asphalt and oil stains and a faint scuff where his cheek met ground. A young officer approaches him hesitantly. New. Nervous. Sir, the officer says, I just wanted to say, I'm watching. Marcus nods. Then do something with that. The officer swallows. Yes, sir. As Marcus walks away, he understands something with brutal clarity. The tape didn't create change. It removed deniability. And systems without deniability don't collapse quietly. The auditorium smells like polish and old carpet, the kind of room built to absorb applause and obedience. Rows of uniforms fill the seats. Police on one side, military on the other. 2 systems facing each other under neutral lighting, pretending they speak the same language. Marcus stands backstage, hands clasped behind his back. His ribs still ache, but the pain is distant now, dulled by something heavier. Anticipation. Wait, Captain Lewis, stand beside him. They didn't want this joint session, he says quietly. Marcus doesn't look at him. Of course not. They agreed when the protest didn't slow, Lewis adds. And when the footage kept resurfacing. Pressure creates cooperation, not justice. A city official steps over. Sergeant Major Hale, You'll have 10 minutes. Marcus nods. I won't need them. The official forces a thin smile and walks away. When Marcus steps onto stage, the room stills. No applause, no hostility, just a tension sharpened by consequence. He walks to the podium, doesn't touch it. I was asked to speak as a soldier, Marcus begins. His voice carries without effort. And, as a victim, a ripple moves through the police side of the room. I'm neither right now, he continues. I'm a witness. He lets that settle. On the night I was stopped, I followed every instruction given to me. I spoke calmly. I complied. That didn't slow the escalation. A man in a police uniform shifts, jaw tight. What stopped it, Marcus says, was not my behavior. It was a piece of plastic with a rank printed on it. Silence deepens. That's not discipline, Marcus continues. That's conditioning. He looks directly at the officers now. You are trained to assess threat, but threat has become shorthand. Hoodie, time of night, skin. A murmur starts. Marcus doesn't raise his voice. I command soldiers, he says. I know fear. I know stress. And I know accountability. He turns slightly, acknowledging the military side. In my world, when harm is done without justification, rank doesn't protect you. It magnifies responsibility. A police captain crosses his arms. With respect, Marcus lifts a hand. The room freezes. Reflex overrides pride. Respect, Marcus says evenly, is not silence. It's correction. He pauses, then delivers it. You saluted me after you beat me, he says, not because you were sorry, because you were afraid. A breath moves through the room like wind through dry grass. That salute wasn't for me, Marcus continues. It was for the authority you suddenly recognize. He steps back from the podium. That is the problem. When he finishes, no one claps. They sit, absorbing the indictment. Afterward, the questions begin. A police lieutenant approaches first. You're saying we're all complicit. Marcus meets his gaze. I'm saying silence counts. Another officer steps forward. Younger, eyes red. I froze. The officer says, I heard it happening. I didn't step in. Marcus studies him. Why not? The officer swallows. Because I want to be next. Marcus nods once. That's how systems survive. Not everyone breaks. One of the officers under investigation, Officer Daniels, stands near the back. His face is rigid, defiant. You're using your rank to destroy people. Daniels says loudly, You think that makes you better? The room tenses. Marcus turns fully toward him. No, he says, it makes me responsible. Daniels scoffs. You walked away alive. That's what matters. Marcus's voice hardens for the first time. I walked away altered. Daniels opens his mouth again. A union rep pulls him back. Later, in a smaller room, the questioning becomes formal. Civilian review board members sit behind folding tables. Recorders blink red. Did the officers announce probable cause? One member asks. No, Marcus answers. Did you threaten them? No. Did you resist? No. The questions stack. The answers remain unchanged. Then one board member leans forward. If you weren't a soldier, what do you think would have happened? Marcus doesn't hesitate. I wouldn't be here to answer you. The room goes quiet. That statement makes its way outside. Headline sharpen. Black soldier says rank save his life. The police union responds within hours. They accuse Marcus of bias, of grandstanding, of exploiting his position. An anonymous source claims Marcus was aggressive. Marcus reads it without reaction. Later that night, he sits alone in his living room. The house is dark. The television is off. Silence presses in. Renee calls. They're splitting, she says. Some officers are cooperating. Others are digging in. Marcus exhales. That's expected. You okay? She asks. He considers the question carefully. I'm steady, he says. After the call, Marcus opens an email marked confidential. A resignation letter attached. Officer Reeves. the one who called him, the one who didn't stop it. In the body of the email, a single line. I couldn't wear the badge anymore. Marcus closes the laptop. Across the city, charges expand. Supervisors are named. Training protocols questioned. Budgets scrutinized. The system resists, but also fractures. Marcus knows better than to mistake this for victory. He stands at the window, watching patrol lights pass in the distance. Command authority, he realizes, isn't about who salutes you. It's about who answers when harm is done. And now, finally, people are being forced to answer. The first indictment drops on a Thursday morning. Marcus hears about it from the radio while tying his boots. The announcer's voice is precise, almost relieved. 2 officers formally charged with felony assault and civil rights violations. He finishes the knot anyway. Muscle memory. Control where he can find it. By noon, 3 more names surface. A supervisor. A training officer. Paper trails appear, emails, reports. Language polished smooth enough to hide intent. The city releases statements layered with concern and distance. We are committed to reform. We take these matters seriously. Marcus testifies the following week. The room is smaller than he expects. No jury yet, just attorneys, a judge, and a clock that ticks too loudly. He sits straight, hands folded, eyes forward. Describe the moment you realize the officer's behavior changed. The prosecutor says. When they saw my ID, Marcus answers. And before that, they treated me as a threat. Based on what? Marcus pauses. Based on me. The defense attorney rises. His tone is careful, respectful. Sergeant Major Hale, would you agree that police work is dangerous? Yes. And that officers must make split-second decisions? Yes. So it's possible this was fear, not bias. Marcus looks at him steadily. Fear doesn't explain the words. The attorney presses. Words spoken under stress. Revealed training, Marcus cuts in. Not impulse. The judge watches closely. Outside the courthouse, protesters chant. Others counter-protest. Lines form. Police stand between them, rigid and silent. That night, Marcus dreams of the stop again, not the pain, but the pause. The second before impact. The decision point. He wakes before dawn. 1 officer pleads guilty. Another takes a deal. The one who laughed goes to trial. The city fires the chief quietly. Announces a new direction. Training budgets are reallocated. Committees form. Marcus attends none of the celebrations. The trial is brutal. Body cam footage plays in slow motion. Experts argue milliseconds. Defense witnesses speak of danger, of uncertainty. Then the audio plays again. You people. The courtroom stiffens. The verdict comes late. Guilty on 2 counts. Not all. Marcus feels no surge of relief, just a hollow settling. Afterward, a reporter asks, "Do you feel justice was served?" Marcus answers honestly, "Some." The officer is sentenced months later. Less time than Marcus expected. More than the department wanted. Careers end quietly. Pensions remain intact. Marcus returns to base the following spring. New command. New faces. Old looks. A junior officer approaches him after briefing. Nervous. Respectful. "Sir," the officer says, "I wanted to say what you did mattered." Marcus nods. What you do next matters more. Later, alone, Marcus reads a letter forwarded from a public defender. A young man, beaten during a stop, referencing Marcus's testimony in court. They listen this time. The letter says, Marcus folds it carefully. The city moves on. News cycles shift. Another incident replaces his. But something remains altered. Officers hesitate longer. Cameras stay on. Some speak up. Others resent the change. Marcus carries the cause quietly. Sleep fractured. Trust recalibrated. Faith replaced with vigilance. Justice didn't heal him, but it disrupted the pattern. And disruption, he knows now, is how systems begin to bend, even when they refuse to break. The street looks smaller in daylight. Marcus stands where it happened, hands in his coat pockets, watching cars pass without slowing. No lights, no sirens, just traffic moving on muscle memory. The city has no reason to pause here anymore. The concrete has been resurfaced. Fresh asphalt covers a place where his cheeks split open. The scuff is gone. The stain is gone. Only Marcus remembers exactly where his body hit. He exhales slowly. Behind him, footsteps approach, measured, hesitant. Sergeant Major Hale? Marcus turns. The young man can't be more than 22. Cadet uniform. Fresh haircut. Eyes alert, nervous in the way of someone still deciding what kind of professional they'll become. Yes, Marcus says. The cadet swallows. I didn't want to interrupt. I was assigned nearby. I recognize the street. Marcus nods. You know what happened here? Yes, sir. They stand in silence for a moment, the weight of shared knowledge hanging between them. I joined after the trial, the cadet says. They showed us the footage in training. Marcus studies him. What did they tell you? That it was a failure of procedure. The cadet answers. Then, quieter, and a failure of courage. Marcus considers that. Which one do you believe? The cadet hesitates, then answers honestly. Both. Marcus nods once. Good. The cadet straightens slightly. I wanted you to know some of us are paying attention. Marcus meets his eyes. Attention isn't enough. I know, the cadet says, but it's where it starts. Marcus watches him for a long moment, then extends his hand. The cadet shakes it, grip firm but respectful. Don't wait for rank to tell you what's right. Marcus says, Yes, sir. The cadet walks away, posture stiff but thoughtful. Marcus remains. Later that week, Marcus attends a small ceremony on base. No cameras, no speeches, a quiet transfer of command responsibilities. He accepts a new role, training oversight, reform advisory, power without spotlight, responsibility without applause. A colonel speaks briefly. Your experience has reshaped conversations, he says. Marcus replies evenly. Conversations aren't outcomes. No, the colonel agrees, but they precede them. That night, Marcus sits alone on his porch. The city hums beyond the trees. His phone rests beside him, silent for once. He thinks about the salute. How fast it came. How automatic. How empty. He remembers the sound of boots aligning, the sudden respect snapping into place like a switch, not because of who he was, but because of what he represented. Authority had saved him. Humanity had not. Renee calls as the sun dips below the rooftops. You okay? She asks. I'm clear, Marcus says. That's different. She's quiet for a moment. Do you regret speaking up? Marcus thinks of the trial, the cost, the nights he wakes too early, heart racing, replaying a pause that never ends. No, he says, I regret that it was necessary. They sit with that. After the call, Marcus opens a folder on his laptop. Notes, training proposals, policy revisions marked with comments from people who once would have dismissed him. Change arrives like that. He's learned. Not loud, not clean, not complete. It arrives in margins, in footnotes, in hesitations that didn't exist before. Weeks later, Marcus drives the same route home he took that night. He doesn't change lanes. He doesn't speed. He doesn't tense when headlights appear behind him. A patrol car passes without stopping. Marcus watches it go. At home, he hangs his jacket carefully. Inside the pocket is his military ID. He removes it and places it in a drawer. He doesn't need it tonight. Before bed, he writes a single line in a notebook he keeps now. Not reports, not statements. Just truths. Respect that depends on rank is not respect. It's fear with rules. He closes the notebook. The city outside continues, imperfect and unfinished. Somewhere, another stop will happen. Another decision will be made in a second that changes a life. Marcus knows this story didn't end with him, but it shifted something. And sometimes, that's the only victory that lasts. Time dulls headlines faster than it dulls memory. By summer, Marcus's name appears less often. The protests thin. The city council's emergency sessions become regular meetings again. Language shifts from accountability to balance, from harm to healing. Words soften, edges round off. Marcus notices everything. His new role keeps him moving. Training facilities, briefings. Quiet rooms where officers sit stiffly and listen because rank requires it. He doesn't shout. He doesn't accuse. He asks them to walk through scenarios slowly, painfully, without shortcuts. Tell me when you decide, he says, during one session. Not what you do, when you decide. An officer frowns. Decide what? Marcus answers evenly. Who deserves patience? Silence follows. It always does. Some officers engage. They argue, challenge, push back. Others stare ahead, arms crossed, waiting for the session to end. Marcus knows which ones worry him more. After one training, a senior sergeant corners him near the exit. You think this fixes it? The man asks. Marcus meets his gaze. No. Then why do it? Because pretending it can't be fixed guarantees it won't be. The sergeant scoffs but doesn't reply. At home, Marcus's sleep improves in fragments. For hours. Then 5. Some nights, none. When the dreams come, they're quieter now, not violent, just insistent. Always a pause. Always a choice. Renee visits one evening with takeout and news. They're reopening 2 old cases. She says, stops that never made it past paperwork. Marcus nods. Because of the footage. And because of you. Marcus shakes his head slightly. Because they couldn't live away anymore. Renee studies him. You still carrying it alone. Marcus doesn't deny it. Weeks later, Marcus received an invitation. Not official, not public. A closed-door meeting with community leaders and department brass. No press. No statements. The room is tense. Old distrust sits heavy at the table. A community organizer speaks first. We don't want another task force. A deputy chief responds. We don't want another lawsuit. Marcus listens until both sides run out of rehearsed lines. Then he speaks. You're both talking about outcomes, he says. No one's talking about costs. They turn toward him. The cost isn't just lawsuits or careers. Marcus continues. It's credibility. It's the moment people stop believing you'll protect them. A chief shifts uncomfortably. We're working on trust. Marcus nods. Trust isn't built after harm. It's demonstrated before force. The room goes quiet again. Not agreement, but attention. Later that night, Marcus walks through his neighborhood. Kids ride bikes. A couple argues softly on a porch. Ordinary life, resilient and indifferent. A patrol car slows at the corner. The officer inside looks at Marcus. Hesitates. Then nods. Not a salute. Not fear. Just acknowledgement. Marcus keeps walking. Months pass. The department releases a revised use of force policy. It's not revolutionary. It's incremental, but includes language that didn't exist before. Duty to intervene, explicit bias recognition, mandatory pause points. Marcus reads it twice. Marks the margins. Sends notes back. Progress rarely arrives whole. One evening, Marcus is invited to speak at a military academy. Cadets fill the hall, younger than he remembers being. Eager, certain. A cadet raises a hand. Sir, do you believe the system is broken? Marcus considers the question carefully. No, he says. I believe it's working as designed. The cadets shift. And designs can change, Marcus adds. But only if people stop pretending they're accidents. Afterward, a young woman approaches him. My father was stopped last year. She says, nothing happened, but it could have. Marcus nods. Those are the moments that matter too. She hesitates. How do you keep going? Marcus answers honestly. I stopped expecting closure. That night, Marcus sits at his desk, the same notebook open. He flips back through pages. Observations, reminders, truths written without audience. He adds another line. Justice is not an ending. It's maintenance. He closes the notebook. Outside, a siren passes in the distance, then fades. The city continues, uneven, unfinished, capable of harm and change in equal measure. Marcus knows the next incident won't look like his. It never does. Different street. Different name. Same pause. He can't be everywhere, but he can remain. And sometimes what remains, watchful, unflinching, unwilling to forget, is what keeps the next boot from landing. The call comes on an ordinary night. No urgency in the ringtone. No warning in the hour. Marcus answers out of habit, more than expectation. Sergeant Major Hale. A familiar voice says, "Colonel Shaw, older now, tired in a way rank can't conceal." "There's been another stop," Shaw continues. Different city, different department. Marcus closes his eyes. He already knows the shape of the sentence. "A black man," Shaw adds. "Civilian, alive, shaken, no charges." Marcus waits. One of the officers intervened. Shaw says, pulled his partner back. Silence stretches between them. "They cited your training session." Shaw finishes. Said they recognized the moment. Marcus exhales slowly. The pause. "Yes." They hang up without ceremony. Marcus sits in the dark long after the call ends. The house is quiet. The world feels briefly balanced on a thin edge. Nothing dramatic, nothing clean. Just the knowledge that harm almost happened. And then didn't. The next morning, he drives to the training facility early. No scheduled sessions. No audience. He walks the empty rooms, past chairs stacked against walls, past whiteboards still marked with old scenarios. He stops at one board where a question remains written in thick black marker. "When do you decide?" Marcus leaves it there. Later that day, he attends a closed debrief with a small group of officers, voluntary attendants, which already means something. They sit in a loose circle. No podium. No uniforms pressed for ceremony. An officer speaks first. "I thought intervention meant escalation," she says, like challenging authority. Marcus nods. "It often feels that way." "But it wasn't," she continues. "It was grounding." Another officer adds, "I didn't freeze this time." Marcus looks at him. "What changed?" The officer thinks. "I remember that silence was also a decision." Marcus lets that settle. That evening, Marcus visits Renee. They sit on the porch, watching dusk gather slowly. "You hear about the stop?" she asks. "Yes." Renee smiles faintly. "That's something." "It's something," Marcus agrees. She studies him. "You look lighter." Marcus considers that. More precise. Renee laughs quietly. "You were always like that." They sit without speaking for a while. "You ever wish it hadn't been you?" she asks eventually. Marcus doesn't answer right away. He thinks of the rain, the lights, the sudden salute, the wait that followed. "No," he says finally. "I wish it hadn't required proof." Renee nods. "That I understand." Weeks pass. Marcus declines interviews, turns down awards. He keeps the work narrow, deliberate. He focuses on systems, not spectacle. On repetition, not recognition. One afternoon, he receives a letter, handwritten, careful, from a man recently released from jail. Wrong stop, wrong assumption. Case dropped after video review. They hesitated. The letter reads, "That saved me." Marcus folds it and places it with the others. Near the end of the year, Marcus is asked to observe a new class of recruits. He stands at the back of the room, unnoticed. The instructor runs a scenario on the screen, a routine stop, intentionally ambiguous. The room tenses as the simulated encounter escalates. Pause. The instructor says suddenly. The recruits freeze. "When did it change?" the instructor asks. Hands rise. Voices overlap. Marcus watches closely, not for right answers, but for awareness. After class, a recruit approaches him, nervous, determined. "Sir," the recruit says, "I want to ask, how do you carry it?" Marcus studies the young man. "Carry what?" "The knowledge." The recruit says, "That you could have been dead." Marcus answers honestly, "I don't carry that." The recruit looks confused. "I carry the knowledge that I wasn't," Marcus continues. "And that survival comes with obligation." The recruit nods slowly. That night, Marcus drives home the long way, past neighborhoods that look like his. past streets that don't. He stops at a red light and notices his hands resting loosely on the wheel. No tension, no calculation, just presence. The light turns green. He drives on. At home, Marcus opens his notebook one last time. The pages are filled now, not with pain, but with pattern, with reminders of where systems fail and where they bend. He writes one final line. The pause is where power reveals itself. He closes the notebook and places in the drawer beside his ID. Outside, somewhere in the city, another officer will make a choice tonight. Another pause will arrive, quiet and decisive. Marcus can't control that moment. But he knows now, clearly, finally, that moments like his don't end with salutes. They end with hesitation. And hesitation, when it replaces reflex, is how lives are spared.